Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. From In the Heights to High School Musical to Aladdin, our next guest has one of the best voices on Broadway. One of the best voices in the world. I'm trying to flatter her. She's right next to me, but it's true. Now you can hear her sing and her story with Arielle Jacobs' debut solo album, A Leap in the Dark, live at Feinstein's 54 Below. Everyone, please welcome Arielle Jacobs. Let's hear it.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
People have said that you have a voice that could bring world peace.
I have been told that.
Who said that?
A reviewer in Chicago, actually.
And what did you think when you heard that?
Well, I thought that's very sweet.
I gotta take this on the road.
Yeah.
And bring world peace.
I'll do what I can.
Yeah. So let's talk about A Leap in the Dark. This show is not just singing, it's a fair amount of discussion about where you grew up, being bullied. Can you talk about where the idea for this show came from and what the process was like writing it?
Sure, yeah. I wanted to create something that was going to be basically a guidepost for everybody who's ever had a dream about something that they feel like they have this big dream they want to accomplish and they know they can do it, but they don't know how to do it. And I was talking to my fiance about creating an album and a solo show, and he helped me come up with this idea about the story of my life told through different stories and songs into making this album that ties together, you know, songs from shows that I've done, like Wicked and In the Heights and Aladdin and High School Musical and Into the Woods and Rent, and then putting them together into one big story that kind of shines a light on the other side, the behind the scenes of what it's like to be on a journey of chasing something that you want to do.
So you kind of use a lot of the songs that you've sung through these shows to sort of tell your story.
Exactly, yeah, and also a couple of pop songs thrown in there. It's like,
what pop songs do you have?
I have a mashup of a couple Celine Dion songs, and I have a Sarah McLachlan song that I'm going to sing later today.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
What made you choose those songs?
They were songs that I feel like that I really connected to, especially the ones from the shows that I've done. I wanted to be able to inhabit the characters that I've played in different parts of my life, because I feel like every time I do a show, there's something that I'm learning from each character. And a lot of the times, it just so happened that the character I was playing was kind of teaching me lessons I needed for exactly that moment of my life. Mm-hmm. And so I talk about that on the album, and it's really cool because it's like an hour and 20-minute show with songs and stories interspersed, and when you listen to the album, you get to hear it.
Is it like
live.
A one-woman show? Hour?
Yes.
That's a long
Yes.
one-woman show. Normally, one-person shows are about 70 to 90 minutes. An hour and 20. That is
an hour.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry, guys. First one of the day. That is, yeah, it's about the right time. But that's still a long time to be on stage doing a one-woman show.
Yeah, but it's cool because when you listen to the album, you can hear the audience reactions, and the dream is for someone to really listen to the album all the way through from start to finish, and so they can get the full journey and feel like they're going through my journey as well, and they get to experience it.
Was there a part of you, after having been a part of other people's productions, obviously you get to own the character while you're in them, that just really wanted to create something of your own that you felt like you had more control over?
There's always that, for sure, because as an actress, you're always telling other people's stories, and you're always saying other people's words. And so it's really important as an artist to find something where you feel like you can create instead of just be an interpreter. And that was a big part of wanting to put this together as well. And I also wanted to kind of help people who might feel like they are stuck. I wanted to really speak to people who feel like they might be coming up against obstacles on their journey towards their dreams. Because back when I was chasing this dream of performing on Broadway and being a singer and actress, I had so many points in my career where I felt like I was coming up against things, and I felt like the universe was telling me that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm not on the right path, and that I felt like I was failing every time I came up against a roadblock.
What kind of roadblocks?
So many things. I mean, being bullied in school is one of them. I had Bell's palsy, and I had a medical condition where half of my face was paralyzed for several months. I couldn't sing, I couldn't perform. I felt, I wasn't sure if it was ever going to come back. And so coming to grips with wondering if my dream is actually never going to happen.
How far along were you with your singing when you got Bell's palsy?
I had already done In the Heights on Broadway. It was after my Broadway debut with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I thought, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And the hardest part about that was not being able to sing, but also I was at a point in my career where I had been auditioning, and even though I had been on Broadway, I was juggling 6 part-time jobs and struggling to pay my rent and feeling like, why am I even doing this?
No, you had just done In the Heights?
Yes. I mean, the journey is so up and down. And then, I talk about other things on the album and points where I got offered a job. I got offered Wicked on Broadway, and I was in another contract, and so I couldn't take it, and the timing didn't work out. Or I left one show hoping to get my chance for a Broadway job, and then that Broadway show closed. So I had quit the one job, but then I couldn't go back to it. And so many things, so many obstacles that I came up against that that's what A Leap in the Dark is really all about. It's taking whenever you feel like you're in a place where you feel like there's an obstacle in your way, and how you can take a leap into the unknown and keep moving forward and know that you are determining your future. It's not that the universe is saying this isn't for you.
What made you comfortable with the idea that you had a story to tell? Because there's always that moment as writers where, it's hard to suddenly have the confidence that your story is worthy of being told.
I know.
It's really the hardest part.
That's definitely a hard thing.
Yeah.
For me, I had my fiance, JJ Carencio, he's sitting here today, and he was the one who helped me create this show. He helped me develop it. He was the one who said that I have something worthwhile to share. And he interviewed me over 23 hours of many, many nights, and was taking notes about me telling different stories of my life, about things that lit me up and things that I seemed passionate about, and kind of took all of these stories from these long interviews and crafted them together into the story that it is.
So a lot of it was having someone there to say, no, this is something that is valuable to the world, that a story that is going to help people and that they're going to want to hear.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, there are things that whenever I talk about what I did or different points where it was a leap into the dark, into the unknown, I sometimes even think, well, I was just being me. I was just not giving up. I was just having faith. But having somebody else who is on the outside who can reflect back to you, no, this is actually brave. What you did is brave and courageous. The fact that you didn't give up and the fact that you stayed positive when you had Bell's palsy and you couldn't even smile because your face didn't work. Having somebody else who can reflect back to you that was a big deal. That was the only way that this happened.
That is an interesting moment where you tell someone, you have that conversation with someone, you're like, I was just pushing ahead.
Yeah.
I was just doing the only and they're like, no, the thing that you were doing would have only been done by you because that's you, and you can't expect other people to have potentially done that, and that's what makes you kind of unique and interesting.
Right, and from the inside, you can't.
It's like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. It's all I knew how to do in that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how did you go about selecting the songs outside of the pop songs, like all the different songs from the musicals that you've been a part of?
I picked the songs that were my favorites, obviously. I sing Breathe from In the Heights. My favorite song from Wicked is Wizard and I, so that one's on there. And
do the songs themselves kind of tie into the stories that you're telling in that moment? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing, is that even though we sing Breathe from In the Heights, we're singing it, I'm singing it as Arielle in a situation where I need to remind myself to breathe. So it's all kind of layered. I get to play myself while playing the other characters that I'm singing.
Well, that's also so much of what musicals do. The best musicals, Sure, when you go see them, they have a story, and that story ties into the song, but then when you listen to the soundtrack later in your life, or even after you've just left the musical, it ends up tying into your life, and it becomes a song abstract from the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to do, is to really create a musical instead of a cabaret or a concert. And a lot of albums that you get are a compilation of songs that they like, but we wanted it all to connect and be one big, long story from start to finish.
When did you start singing?
I started in church choir when I was yay high, and I told my mom I wanted to take voice lessons at age 7. That was in San Francisco, so she found me a voice teacher. And this voice teacher happened to run a children's song and dance troupe. So I convinced my brother to start singing as well. And then she threw both of us into this, song and dance troupe called the Razzle Dazzle Kids. And we performed all over the Bay Area. We performed in hotels and in nursing homes. And it was great. It was a lot of like doo-wop songs and fun, 50s songs and Christmas songs and stuff like that.
And did someone tell you at an early age, like, hey, you've got a really great voice and we need to, practice and get it better and better because you've got a real talent here?
I don't think I ever had that, except that I did in high school. I started studying classically at the Westminster Conservatory of Music, studied opera, and I loved it so much. And my teacher at the time, Carolyn Haney, she encouraged me to do my own solo shows in high school, right? So I'm doing in my junior year of high school, she had me do a 1-hour-long recital of arias and musical theater songs. And I did that my junior year of high school, my senior year of high school. I did another one. So she was, I guess, the first person who really pushed me into making it something more than just a hobby, because she made me spend a lot of time on that and get up in front of my friends and family and do something, in a very fancy dress. And then I went to NYU. I got a Bachelor of Music in voice, and I had to do it again. I had to do another recital. And at the time I was graduating college, everyone was freaking out because they had to prepare their one-person, 1 hour solo show. And I was like, I've done this. I did this twice in high school. And my high school choir teacher as well, I wouldn't say that he pointed me out specifically and was like, you need to do this. But he did have such a passion for music that it felt like it awakened something in me. And he got me excited about different kinds of music and, learning how to sing with a group and learning how to do harmonies and learning all this stuff that I wouldn't have known.
Very technical.
Very, very technical in high school. So I think I was surrounded by people who helped me foster it, for sure.
So that's the moment, right, where you realize that you actually love something rather than you just like doing it for fun, is when someone starts getting technical with you and you keep digging further and further in with them rather than going like, all right, I'm done. Yeah, this isn't fun anymore.
Other things, when I played soccer when I was little and I got to the end of the first half and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, or you get to, say you play sports before high school and then you get to high school and they're playing sports and everyone's very serious and competitive about it and you're like, no, sorry, right. I don't want to do that. But you find this other thing that you do get serious and you do get competitive and technical about. Right. And keep going.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be my career path, but I knew that I loved it. And I also knew that...
How could you be sure? It's singing. No one is ever like, this could be a career for you. Everyone's like, good luck.
Yeah. But I also felt like that singing for me felt like catharsis. I feel like when I perform something and I get to experience whatever the character is experiencing, or if it's a pop song, if I get to really dive in and really express the emotion of a song, then it feels healing for me. And I believe that if something feels healing for you and then you share it with the world, if you share the lessons learned or the experience, then you're making a greater impact and spreading light and positivity with everyone. And that's almost like the purpose of all art and of everything we do.
Oh, can you talk about what was the first show that you got? I mean, I know In the Heights was Broadway, but I know High School Musical was touring, right? Was that prior to In the Heights?
Yes, it was my very first big show.
That was your first big show, yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I auditioned for Finding Nemo at Disneyland, and the casting director was like, you look like that girl from High School Musical. So, and I had never even seen the movie. So I told my agent at the time, keep an ear out for this show, High School Musical, in case there's a stage version. And there was, and I got an audition, and apparently I was the very last person they saw for the role. And they had no idea who I was. I was a nobody. But I guess because I looked like her and I sang it well enough, I got to do the role, and it was such an incredible experience. Like, the frenzy that was High School Musical back in 2007, that was like, it was like every time that the music started playing and the lights went down in the house, we were in a 5,000-seat theater, and the kids would scream like we were the Beatles or like the Rolling Stones or Elvis or something, and it was just crazy. It was like, I could never have imagined being a part of something like that.
Yeah, you showed up and you were like, oh, I guess I'm a star now.
It was nuts.
And then I guess you got that probably from New York because you were at NYU, and then you came back and auditioned for In the Heights?
Yes, yeah. I was actually in the rehearsals for High School Musical 2 because they made a sequel.
The movie or the musical?
The musical stage version.
Did
They made a sequel.
They did a sequel.
And it tanked. But while
It's a movie. I don't think that works as a musical, a play, like a show. That doesn't seem right.
They wanted to try. They wanted to try. And then, so I was in auditions for that. I was in rehearsals for High School Musical 2. And that's when I got the audition for In the Heights.
And what was it like working with Lin-Manuel?
Incredible. The man is a genius, and he's got so much energy, and he's so fun, and he's so playful. And I remember off stage every day before our bows, we would be on opposite sides of the stage, but we would like have dance-offs in the dark before we went on for our bow. He's just
still going after the end of the show? Like, before going out for the bow, you're doing a dance-off. You're not exhausted?
No, because he's like the Energizer Bunny.
Right.
He never gets tired. He's just always so present and so 150%. And he's, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got so lucky. I felt so honored to be able to perform with him and most of the original cast from that show.
Yeah.
So for that to be my Broadway debut was like such a highlight.
And then after that, you got Wicked and Aladdin, right? And what was it like to sort of suddenly start feeling like you were a part of this community, and maybe it was not, I would never dare to say easier to get roles, but people were actually looking for you for roles now.
I don't know.
Does it feel like that? Or do you still feel like an actor that's sort of clawing your way to the...
You still always feel like you're hoping to get the next job.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in my 3rd Broadway show right now, and I still feel like, who knows what's going to happen after this? I feel lucky when I get a call. I rarely get a call that's just an offer unless it's a reading or a workshop. But whenever I get the call to come in and audition for something, it's still like, gosh, I hope that this is the next thing. Because in our industry, we never know how long any show is going to last. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
How long have you been doing Aladdin right now?
I started in New York I started in February, so about 5 months ago. And before that, I opened the Australian production in Sydney. So I did the show there for 6 months.
So you've been doing this part for a little while now.
Yeah.
Do you love this part?
I love this part.
What do you love about it?
I have always wanted to be a Disney princess, for one. And I tell people now that I'm 2 princesses in one because I'm named after Little Mermaid and I get to play Jasmine. Right. And if you look on YouTube, you can see I've played, the Broadway Princess Parties at 54 Below. It's this concert series, and all these female Broadway stars come in and they perform as different princesses. So I've sang as Moana and Jasmine and Pocahontas. So I get to do all of the princesses. And I think...
So you get to live as a child.
Yeah, I get to play all the time. It's
for you. You get to exist in your childhood fantasies all the time, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's hard work too. It's, it's 8 shows a week, but when I get to take the stage and I get to sometimes I get to hear little girls when I come out on the stage for the first time and they go, "It's Jasmine!" And then I just die inside because it's adorable. And sometimes I meet them in their little Jasmine outfits at the stage door, and it's the best because
You're bringing so much happiness to.
I'm bringing happiness, but I'm also bringing something that they can look up to in terms of how they want to exist in the world, because Jasmine is such a strong princess, and she speaks her mind, and she's independent, and she is compassionate too, and she's kind of a badass. So I get to exist with all of these colors and show that that's possible.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's a question? You, sir.
Hi.
This question's from an online viewer. Gabriel would like to know, which artist would you like to meet and gain wisdom from?
Which artist would I like to meet and gain wisdom from? Oh my gosh. I have several female actresses that I look up to. Meryl Streep is one. Carey Mulligan, I adore her. I think she's so real and grounded and embodies her character so much. Ava Green is another one. If you guys haven't seen Penny Dreadful, you need to see that show. She's an icon. And then also Sarah Bareilles is like, her voice and just her songwriting skills have so much storytelling in them. It's so hard to find pop songs that actually tell stories and are sung in a way that make you feel all of the things. So she's like the top of my list in terms of singers.
Next question. We have time for one more.
Hi, I actually got the privilege to see your brother on Aladdin. I was just wondering, since you're on the show now, has he given you like any advice, or like how did you feel like after he found out that you were on the role?
Adam Jacobs, he originated Aladdin. He's not in the show anymore. Don't worry, I don't have to kiss him. And but when I was auditioning for the role, he read through one scene with me, but it wasn't really, he didn't really like give me any tips as much as he just told me like, yeah, that's right. Because I had seen the show so many times. I had gone to see him when they did their out of town in Seattle, and then when they did it in Toronto. So I really was, I had seen what the vibe of the show was already. So I think he was just proud of me. And he actually came to see me for the very first time about a month ago. He never was able to come to Australia, and he couldn't, see me while I was doing it on Broadway because he was touring the country with the show for the first year of the tour. So it was really, really exciting, and I get really excited when knowing that I am carrying this show that he left, because I feel like I owe it to him to do a good job, and I look up to him so much. So, yeah.
Do you guys ever want to do a show together?
Yes.
Where you play brother and sister or something? No.
Yes. We've been trying to rack our brains to figure out what we can do together where we don't have to kiss. If there's a show where we can, both carry the show, but maybe we're brother and sister in the show, maybe we're not. But we did do a concert together at 54 Below, and it was called Sibling Disobedience. And we had a really great time crafting that show and telling stories, growing up together and performing together, but not together throughout our life. But there's clips of that on YouTube as well. That was really fun.
Did you guys used to perform together as children, though?
We did.
Yeah? Were you competitive at all?
Everybody asks that, but no, because we were never epic for the same roles. I think we were just always very supportive of each other.
It was never like, but watch me sing now. No, watch me sing.
If anything, I was like that, and he was like, fine, do your thing. He didn't really care about being the center of attention in terms of, like, family events. I was always wanted to perform for all of our family, and he just did if they asked him to, but he didn't feel the need to take the spotlight. And maybe as a younger child, I'm like, give me all the spotlight. I don't know.
Well, congratulations on the album and all your
Thank you.
success on Broadway. You have an amazing voice and incredible talent. And fortunately for us, you're going to be singing a song for us in just a minute,
Yes,
right?
I will.
You're going to be singing Sarah McLachlan, as
I
you said,
am,
right?
yeah.
Before we start doing that, everybody please give a round of applause for Arielle and A Leap in the Dark and pick up the album. Let's hear it.